Welcome to the AEN Stories channel.
I turned 44 the week the heat finally broke. The morning of my birthday, the backyard felt rinsed, like someone had taken a hose to August. The maple leaves moved for the first time in weeks. Lily was up early, which she never is during summer, padding around in her socks, whispering with Megan in the kitchen like they were staging a surprise but not very good at keeping it quiet. "Don't come in," Lily said when I headed toward the coffee. "Like, at all?" "I live here," I said, and backed away with my hands up. She rolled her eyes in a way I have learned means I love you and you're embarrassing me at the same time. 5 minutes. 5 minutes turned into 10. I stood in the hallway and looked at the pictures on the wall, Megan and me in college, windy hair and cheap sunglasses, our wedding photo where my tie is crooked and we're both grinning like fools, Lily at 4 in a tutu and rain boots, a combination she insisted made sense. If you'd asked me then what I wanted at 44, I would have said what I had, a family where the dog's hair on the couch was our worst fight. They finally let me into the kitchen. There were pancakes shaped like a number 44 that looked more like two states arguing about their border. Megan had written "Happy Birthday" in chocolate syrup in a script that reminded me of her senior year notebooks, the ones where she planned out our life in ballpoint. Lily sang, off-key and loud, and made a show of presenting me with a paper crown she'd cut and taped and labeled King, but only today. "Coffee?" Megan asked, lifting the pot. "Always," I said. She smiled, but her eyes slid off mine and landed somewhere behind my shoulder. I noticed the slide, filed it. Lately I'd been noticing more lateness that didn't used to be part of her personality. New perfume that wasn't hers. A phone screen tilted away from me, a laugh she kept. At noon, her parents were due, along with a couple of neighbors we consider family because life is easier when you can borrow eggs without a text. Megan's best friend, Tessa, was coming, too, because she has always come to everything, Little League games, school plays. The Saturday we spent repainting the living room to a color named Early Fog that dried to wet newspaper. Tessa has known Megan since they were 15 and survived a geometry teacher they still swear needed a sabbatical. When they're together, they turn into the teenage version of themselves, sarcasm is a first language, secrets like oxygen. Lily disappeared after breakfast, triumph blazing in her eyes. "I have to wrap your present," she said, clutching something in a plain shoebox. "You already made me a crown," I said. "That's deluxe." "This is better," she promised, and went to her room, shutting the door with the drama of 14. Megan stood at the sink rinsing blueberries, her shoulders set in that way that means she's counting something, recipes, minutes, exits. "Your dad texted they're bringing a pie," she said. "Your mom's or your mom's?" I asked. "Both pies are legitimately good, one comes with judgment." "Mine," she said. She said she's trying a new crust. She wanted me to ask if you'll be sweet about it. "I will lie convincingly," I said. Megan laughed and then rubbed her wrist with the thumb and forefinger of her other hand. It's a tell she has when she's anxious. "You okay?" I asked. "Just big day," she said. "Just a birthday," I said. "Just a birthday," she echoed, and took the blueberries outside. By 2, everyone was here. The backyard looked like a magazine spread designed by people who have never met mosquitoes, string lights, paper lanterns Lily insisted on, a folding table with a tablecloth we saved for when I can be trusted not to spill. Megan's parents, Joanne and Peter, arrived with a pie and opinions. Joanne hugged me, patted my cheek, and said, "44 looks good on you," in the tone of someone who approved of me the way she approves of sales at Macy's. Peter shook my hand like he does with every man and then hugged me anyway, which is how he says I'm on your side even when I'm not sure which side we're building. Tessa came through the gate with a bright smile and a flat gift bag. She looked at Megan like there was a message between them, some silent conversation I wasn't invited to. I'm not a jealous man. I've always appreciated that Megan has a friend who remembers things I forget, the name of her second-grade teacher, the station we used to listen to on road trips, the fact that she likes her sunglasses a little too big. But something in the way Tessa looked at her had a wire running through it. Not a bad wire. A warning wire. "We grilled because that's what you do when you're a dad in a backyard." Peter hovered with beer commentary. "You sure you want to flip now?" he asked. "I'm sure," I said, even when I wasn't, because men will defend meat decisions like congressional votes. Lily waited until everyone had eaten, until plates leaned back with the satisfaction of having been used for good. She stood up so suddenly her chair squeaked against the deck. "Okay," she declared. "Present time." I put my hands up. "You didn't have to." "I wanted to," she said, indignant, like I had accused her of charity. She reached under the table and pulled out the shoebox, now wrapped in brown paper with a blue ribbon triple knotted. "To Dad" was written in thick marker across the top, and underneath, "From Lily, and Mom?" The question mark an entire essay. Megan watched Lily with a smile that didn't touch her forehead. "You didn't have to make it a ceremony," she said. "It's a birthday," Lily said. "Ceremony is literally the point. 14 is when you say literally a lot and mean it half the time." I took the box and tugged at the ribbon. It stuck in the stubborn way of knots tied by people who intend them to be admired, not undone. "Scissors?" I asked. "No," Lily said, and began picking at the knot with a concentration generally reserved for bomb squads. Tessa reached to help, then pulled her hand back, then put it forward again, like a small bird landing and reconsidering. Joanne said, "Just rip it," in the tone of a mother who survived Christmas mornings with 3 children. Peter looked anywhere but at the box. He's good at that. The paper came off. The lid lifted. Inside was a sleek, rectangular box the color of night. Men's cologne, the kind of heavy glass that fits perfectly in a hand. I recognize the label because I see it in magazine ads next to men who have time to iron their shirts and sale on Tuesdays. It was expensive. I glanced at Megan. She hates spending money on brand names, and then back at Lily, whose face was bright with the particular joy of giving. "Wow," I said, genuinely. "This is fancy." "Open it," Lily said, bouncing on her toes like we keep a trampoline under the deck. I slid the bottle out. A small, folded card fell onto the tablecloth as if it had been tucked under the base of the box and was waiting for the right moment to appear. Lily grabbed it, triumphant. "There's a note," she said, and handed it to me because gifts should be whole. I opened it without thinking because I was a man at a party with his family. The handwriting was sharp and tilted, the ink dark as if pressed with purpose. "Thank you for last night. You're the best." No name. No flourish. Just those lines, so clean I could see the pressure marks through the paper. There is a kind of silence I did not know existed until that moment. It isn't the absence of noise, it's the presence of a new fact so large it mutes everything else. The party kept happening in the periphery, somewhere, a grill crackled, a neighbor's dog barked, but inside our circle, time sat down and refused to move. "What's it say?" Lily asked, the way kids do when they already know the game but still want the rules read out loud. I could have lied. I could have said it was a generic store insert. I could have flicked the card under the table, who puts cards in boxes anymore? I didn't. My mouth went ahead of my brain, the way your foot sometimes hits the bottom stair when there isn't one. "Thank you for last night. You're the best," I read, and watched the sentence fall into the room like a brick through glass. Lily's face changed first, a cloud moving over the field. Megan's hand went to her wrist, then to her throat, the way people check their pulse when they suddenly remember they have won. Joanne's inhale was audible, a small gasp a long way from melodrama. Peter closed his eyes, as if blinking could change handwriting. Tessa, the friend who is always here, the one who held Megan's hair in college bathrooms and whispered in movie theaters and knows the pharmacist by first name, made a sound like she'd stepped on something sharp. Her mouth opened and closed. She looked at Megan, then at me, then back at Megan. "Tess," Megan said, too fast, too low. It was a warning or a plea. It came out like both. Tessa shook her head. "I can't," she said, "not to me, not to Lily, not to anyone we could see. I can't keep being the person who knows but doesn't speak. Not with Lily standing here." "Tessa," Megan said again, her voice breaking on the second syllable. Peter sat forward, his hands flat on his knees. "He's a quiet man until he isn't. Say it," he told Tessa, not unkindly. "If there's something to say, say it in front of all of us." Joanne put a hand on Megan's shoulder like she could hold her in place with 5 fingers. Tessa looked at me, then at Lily, who had stopped bouncing and started shaking in the way you do when the floor beneath you has rearranged itself. "It's not for you," Tessa said softly. "It wasn't supposed to be for you." She swallowed. "It wasn't supposed to be here at all." "Stop," Megan whispered, but the word had no power left in it. Tessa kept going, because sometimes the only way through a fire is to walk. "I told her not to keep anything at the house," she said. I told her this was going to explode. I told her you don't hide dynamite in a closet where your daughter keeps her art supplies." Lily made a sound I hope I never hear again as long as I live, a small animal sound that doesn't belong to a human. She reached for the back of a chair and missed. I reached for her and didn't. She stood there with her hands open, like she was catching rain that wasn't falling. Joanne's hand tightened on Megan's shoulder, then slid off. "Megan," she said, in the voice mothers use when they are trying language before volume. "Tell me I'm misunderstanding." Megan's eyes were full in a way I don't know how to describe. She looked at Lily first. She looked at me second. She couldn't look at her father. "I'm sorry," she said. "I'm so sorry. I never," she caught herself. "That's a lie. I didn't mean to hurt you like this," she corrected. "I didn't mean to hurt Lily." Peter stood up. He is not tall, but he looked it then. "You didn't mean to hurt Lily," he repeated, like he was testing a word in a language he didn't believe. He pointed at the box, the card, the bottle. "You brought it into her house." "Dad," Megan said, shrinking on the second letter. "You embarrassed your family," he said, not yelling, which was worse. "You embarrassed your child." Joanne turned on him. "Peter." "Don't," he said, without looking away from Megan. "Not this time." Megan's eyes flashed, pride, fear, the teenage you can still see at the edges if you've known someone long enough. "You think I don't know what I did?" she snapped, then flinched at herself. "You think I don't wake up at 3 and wish I could take a different exit?" Lily sat down, hard. She stared at the grain of the table like there were answers carved into it. "I thought it was for Dad," she said to no one, to everyone. "I thought I wanted to make it special." Every adult at the table reached for her in their heads. Only one of us moved. Tessa slid around the chair and knelt next to Lily like she used to when Lily was little and scraped her knee on the driveway. "This is not on you," she said. "You didn't do anything wrong." Lily looked at Tessa like she was a person she didn't know. "You knew," she said, not a question. Tessa's mouth trembled. "I knew she was making mistakes," she said. "I told her to stop. I told her to tell the truth." "You didn't tell me," Lily said. 14 is when you learn the different shapes of betrayal." Tessa shut her eyes and opened them. "I know." Megan stood up like a person getting off a ride that made her sick. "Everyone, please," she said. "I will answer whatever you want. Not right now. Let me talk to Lily alone." "No." The voice surprised me because it was mine and because it didn't sound like I expected it to. No thunder, no metal. Just a long, tired line. Megan looked at me like she was trying to find the friend under the husband. "Ethan. We're not going to do this behind doors," I said. "We're not going to make the closet a character again." Peter nodded once, a verdict. Joanne looked at me as if I had used the wrong fork at a funeral. We didn't do a big scene. There was no plate throwing, no dramatic exits except for the man who had somehow managed to haunt the afternoon without being in it. We sat. We listened. Megan spoke in a voice that sounded like hers run through a filter. "It started months ago," she said. "I was unhappy, I told myself it was a phase, I told myself no one was getting hurt, which is what people say when they are actively hurting people. I ended it." She stopped, corrected herself. "I tried to end it. I was stupid enough to believe I could have souvenirs." She touched the edge of the box like it might bite her. "I was stupid enough to think I was in control." Joanne cried in a way that sounded like she'd practiced for it. Peter stared at the fence like it needed repair. Tessa put her head in her hands. Lily didn't cry. She pulled the paper crown off my head and turned it over and over in her hands until the tape came loose. I don't remember who suggested going inside. I only remember the way the air felt heavier on the other side of the sliding door, the way the house we've been paying for felt like a stage set about to be struck. We moved into the kitchen in the way families do when they don't know what to do with their feet. Someone turned off the grill. Someone tossed the paper plates. The cologne sat on the table like a small, expensive bomb that had already gone off. "Where do we go from here?" Joanne asked the room, as if there might be a sign posted somewhere. "What do people do?" "Counseling," Tessa said immediately, her voice steady for the first time. "For all of you." "Not just counseling," Peter said. He looked at me, not unkindly. "Boundaries." "I'm not leaving my house," Megan said, panic sharpening her words. "No one said you were," I said. Then, because I am tired of euphemisms, "not tonight." Lily stood. "I want to go to Grandma and Grandpa's," she said to me, not to Megan. "Just for a few days." Megan put a hand on the counter and missed. "Lily, please." "I don't want to talk to you right now," Lily said without heat. 14 can be cruel without trying. This wasn't cruelty. It was triage. Joanne looked at me, her face a battlefield of loyalties. "She's her mother," she said, pleading and scolding and remembering all at once. "She's our daughter," I said. "She's asking for space." Peter took his keys from the hook by the door the way he always does when the job is terrible and necessary. "We'll take her," he said. To Megan, "You can come by tomorrow." "Not tonight." Megan nodded like she'd been waiting to be told what to do. She turned to Lily. "I love you," she said, a sentence that does not stop anything but can sometimes keep things from getting worse. Lily didn't answer. She hugged me in a rush, the way she did when she was little and didn't want anyone to see. She let Tessa touch her shoulder. She passed her mother like passing a stranger at the grocery store. She left with her grandparents, carrying a backpack she packed in 3 minutes with the efficiency of someone whose room had turned into a museum overnight. After they were gone, the house exhaled in the way houses do when you take one heartbeat out of them. Tessa sat at the table and put her face in her hands. Megan leaned against the refrigerator like it was the only solid thing left. I stood in the doorway and looked at the backyard, the lights we'd strung, the lanterns Lily wanted, the table where a note had changed our language. "I'm sorry," Megan said again, because there wasn't a different sentence available. "I'm so sorry, Ethan." "I know," I said, because I needed to say a sentence too. I sat down. The chair felt like a compromise. "We're going to need rules," I said. "And help." "I'll call someone tomorrow," Tessa said, already Googling, already building a list. "I know 3 people. Good people." "Thank you," I said, and meant it like a debt. Megan reached toward the cologne, then stopped. "Do I throw it away?" she asked, a child's question. "No," I said, because something mean in me wanted proof. "I'll do it." That night I slept on the couch, not because we'd made a policy but because going to our room felt like stealing. Megan went to the guest room with a glass of water and the walk of a person who has held a heavy thing too long. I stared at the ceiling and listened to the house settle and tried to imagine sentences I could say to Lily that would be both true and useful. The dog, who has never understood any of our schedules, jumped onto the couch and arranged himself against my legs like a sandbag. I let him. I needed the weight. In the morning, I made coffee because mornings demand rituals. Megan came into the kitchen with a face that had learned the night the hard way. "Do I go?" she asked. "Not yet," I said. "Let me talk to her first." Tessa texted the name of a counselor and an appointment time I hadn't agreed to but would show up for. Joanne sent a message that said she cried all night and then she's asking for you. Peter, a man of few texts, sent "We're here." I drove over with a bag of Lily's favorite sweatshirt and the book she'd been reading, a fantasy with maps on the inside cover. Joanne hugged me and then stepped aside. Peter nodded and disappeared into the garage, where he organizes nails by diameter when life disappoints him. Lily was in the den under a blanket that smelled like their house. She looked at me like we were meeting at the edge of a cliff. "Hey," I said. "Hey," she said. We didn't rush it. I sat at the other end of the couch. We watched the morning news without sound until I couldn't stand older men in suits cueing graphics about things that didn't matter to her house. I muted it and turned toward her. "I didn't know," I said, which felt like an apology. "I know," she said, which felt like forgiveness she wasn't ready to give. "You didn't do anything wrong," I said. "I know," she said again, which felt like a line she'd been coached to say and believed halfway. "I'm so mad," she said, surprising us both. "Me too," I said. "At everyone," she said. "Me too," I said again, because there wasn't anything else. She thumbed the edge of the blanket like it was a page. "Are you going to divorce?" "I don't know," I said, and didn't look away. "We're going to talk to someone. We're going to make rules. We're going to do this with you in the center." "I don't want to see him," she said. It took me a second to realize she meant whoever had written the note, a person whose name we hadn't said because saying it makes it more real. "You won't," I said. "That's rule 1. She nodded, a small click back into place in a machine that still might run. "Can I stay here a few days?" "As long as you want," I said. "I'll come after school. We'll eat your grandma's pie and pretend it's dinner." She smiled, then frowned, then smiled again. Because 14 is a storm with good stretches. "Okay," she said. "But not the crust. It's weird." "I will lie convincingly," I said, and she laughed, a sound I wanted to bottle. We saw the counselor on Thursday in an office with fern wallpaper and a glass bowl of hard candies that tasted like a dentist's waiting room. She was calm in the way only people who have listened to this story 100 times can be. She explained boundaries and consequences and the difference between an apology and a plan. She looked at Megan and said, "No contact, period," and looked at me and said, "Transparency is a practice, not a punishment," and looked at Lily and said, "You get to decide what you need from each of them and when." We didn't fix anything in an hour. We put a few things on a table, separate rooms for now, shared calendar, 2 dinners a week as a family, not negotiable. Phone access boring enough to make us both honest, time for Lily alone with each of us that doesn't involve discussing the other. We walked out holding a paper with bullet points that felt like a map to a place we didn't trust, but a map nonetheless. Megan went to her parents to see Lily that night. I came later, after work, because I needed them to see me show up. Joanne hovered. Peter sat in his chair like a boulder. Megan sat on the edge of the couch and didn't pretend a thing. She told Lily she was sorry again. She said it with nouns, not adjectives. She didn't reach for her hand until Lily reached first. When Lily did, it was quick, like testing water. At home, after, I took the cologne bottle from the pantry where I'd hidden it behind the flower like contraband. I walked it out to the trash with a stupid ceremony, like a man in a movie leaving his gun on the stoop. I stood there with the lid up and thought about keeping it as evidence, as a reminder, as a weight. Then I dropped it and listened for the sound of glass on glass. It didn't shatter, of course it didn't, those bottles are built like monuments. It thudded. The banality offended me in a way that felt ridiculous and honest. We didn't post anything. We didn't make a statement. The people who needed to know found out because that's what happens in families and neighborhoods and circles where your life is woven with others. Tessa came by with dinners, not because she's a hero but because she knows how to do something when doing nothing would kill her. Peter and Joanne took Lily to school and didn't ask her to explain herself to them. Megan and I learned how not to talk in order to talk, about mail, about lunch money, about the dog, about the weather, about the counselor's next slot, about how the house sounds different when Lily isn't in it. My birthday came and went like a storm that leaves branches on the lawn. The lanterns are still up. Lily wants to keep them for when her friends come over again, when cake is just cake and not a prop in a scene. We will, when she tells us it's time. If you ask me how it ends, I won't pretend to know. I know how the day ended, and that's enough for now. Lily asleep at her grandparents', finally, after asking for the light to stay on and then turning it off herself, Megan at the sink in our kitchen, washing a plate she could have left, staring out the window at a yard that looks the same and isn't. Me on the couch with the dog on my shins, reading the same line in a book until it becomes a slogan. Keep breathing, then decide. We'll keep breathing. We'll decide in the small ways first, who takes Lily to practice, who buys more coffee, Who moves the pot that always burns? The big decisions will come like weather, we'll dress for them when they do. I'll remember the note without letting it be the only sentence. I'll remember Lily's face when she handed me the box, the pure belief that she was giving me something perfect. I'll try to deserve that face, even if I never get it back exactly the same way. It was supposed to be a warm family day. In a way, it still was. Warmth shows up in strange places, under a paper crown, in a daughter's stubborn love for ceremony, in a friend's refusal to keep a secret that would rot us, in a grandfather's quiet, in a grandmother's loud, in the way a house holds us while we decide who we are going to be next. Thank you for listening my story. If you want more raw, real, and gripping stories like this one, subscribe to the A.E.N. Stories channel. Your support keeps these stories alive.